The might of the Barbarian! Through sheer strength I crush my enemies. Also I throw ghosts. Sorry? Oh god, you're serious!
Subclasses. They can take a class and completely change what it can do while maintaining the core identity of that class. And Pathfinder 2e has a lot of them. And that's to be expected. With 22 base classes and a 23rd on the way, if each of them have roughly 3 subclasses, you're looking at a potentially 70 plus different subclasses throughout the entire game. So with so many potential subclasses, it's not surprising that some of them get left by the wayside. They don't get utilized as much as their more popular counterparts. So today, I want to shine some light on what I believe to be 5 underrated subclasses in Pathfinder 2e. Now, these are not the most underrated subclasses because that would put me in a corner, and this means I can make another 5 underrated subclasses video in the future. These are in no particular order, and since they're just underrated, this has nothing to do with their power or really their flavor or anything. A lot of things can contribute to an underrated or underused subclass, and that could be its strength. People just don't have that class fantasy, or it can even be something as little as bad book placement. I'm not kidding. There are subclasses that I know don't get used because they happen to be broken up between pages and people don't want to keep reading it. I know this because I've done that with subclasses. So let's go ahead and jump right in with one such subclass that I think has been done kinda dirty by how few people really use it, and that is the Spirit Instinct Barbarian. You see how you get a paragraph and then it just cuts off, and if you want to keep reading, you have to go to the next page? I don't have to scroll to the next page. That takes effort. In all seriousness, I think part of the reason Spirit Instinct Barbarians aren't used as often as something like Draconic or Giant Instinct Barbarians is because it has the second lowest rage damage bonus. It's easy to look at it and go, that number is lower. I don't want it. And then there's the Fury Instinct, which, that's not underrated. It's just sad. But the big deal about the Spirit Instinct Barbarian is that their bonus damage is positive or negative. It is the only Barbarian instinct that gets to actively choose its bonus damage type every time they rage. Dragon is stuck to its dragon type element. Giant is always physical. This, every time you start a combat, oh, we're fighting living creatures, it's going to be negative damage. Oh, we're fighting undead or ghosts, positive damage. You are always ready for whatever comes at you. And on top of that, all of your weapons while raging are considered having Ghost Touch. That's like a level 3 magic item enchantment on a weapon that you get for free at level 1, and it doesn't count against your maximum number of runes. That is a free rune on all of your weapons forever, and you can have other ones. It's amazing. Oh, and their raging resistance at higher levels, not only do they get raging resistance against negative damage, but also all damage from undead creatures. Let me put some emphasis on that. All damage that originates from an undead creature. The Lich casts Disintegrate, you resist it. The zombie punches you in the face, you resist it. The vampire turns you down when you asked them out and deals you emotional damage, you resist it. And on top of all of that, their level 12 feat Spirit's Wrath is ridiculously cool, where you get to throw ghosts at people. You can conjure up a little wisp of a spirit and shoot it out at somebody to attack. I love this subclass. It does not get utilized enough, and it's just so cool, and it's not even weak. The damage number is slightly lower than Giant and Dragon, but of all the other benefits you get, it's so worth it. Number 2 is a weird one, and it's the Wild Order Druid. People don't tend to go for the Wild Order of Druid because animal form is still a spell. Even if you don't take the feats and you don't take the subclass of Wild Order, you can still shapeshift just by using a spell slot. But let me make my case here. Wild Order gives some insane bonuses that a lot of people don't even know about because it's ridiculously complicated. Look how long this paragraph is on Wild Form, but I'll break it down really simple. Wild Form is the same as any of the shape spells, dinosaur form, animal shape, insect form, all of those in the form of a focus spell. And as you level up and take different feats, you can start using those other form spells in the focus spell, all wrapped up in this one focus spell. Wild form is all of them in one, provided you take the correct feats. What this means is you can still shapeshift and it lasts for a minute, but for a 10-minute refocus, you can do it again. Unlike a spell slot, which is gone for the rest of the day, your focus spells can keep coming back. You can turn into a bird for a minute, fly up, look around, come back down, spend 10 minutes refocusing, and then go back up and fly around again. Now, for a roleplay perspective, that's awesome. You can sort of utilize the spell more without feeling like you're wasting it. Well, how about in combat? Well, there's a really nice sentence at the end of that paragraph that a lot of people miss. If you use your own attack bonus instead of the preset attack bonus of, say, animal form, you get a flat +2. Now, early game, this isn't a huge difference. A level 3 druid with a 16 in strength or dexterity would have a +10 to hit with this, whereas animal form gives you a +9. But also remember that animal form doesn't get stronger until you heighten it. This means that going from level 3 to 4, animal form doesn't get any stronger, but your base attack does. And once you hit higher levels like level 11, you can really start seeing the difference where that same druid casting animal form gets a +18 to hit, but the wild form druid has a +21. With that +2 in the right situations, you can be on par with a fighter. And to top this all off, depending on your table's interpretation of the rules, you might be able to add hand wraps of mighty blows to this. This is really unclear, because there are specific rules that state battle forms do not benefit from hand wraps of mighty blows. But since you're using wild form and specifically choosing to use your own attack modifier, does it account for the hand wraps? Howdy y'all, editing Nonat here. I actually want to amend this by saying I am 99% certain that if you use your own attack modifier in wild shape, you do get your hand wraps of mighty blows. Let me explain. If we look at the appendix that talks about battle forms with a polymorph spell, the special statistics can only be adjusted by circumstance, status, and penalties. Since we are using our own modifier, we are not using the special statistic. We are using our base proficiency with a claw attack or a jaws attack. Because in Pathfinder 2e, all natural attacks are considered unarmed attacks, the hand wraps of mighty blows would grant their benefit to these unarmed attacks. And my defense of this is that hand wraps of mighty blows work for the Animal Instinct Barbarian. The Animal Instinct Barbarian, if they have a +1 hand wraps and they shapeshift to get their antlers while raging, they get the hand wraps bonus to their antlers attack. Now again, normally this would not work with animal form because it is a battle form and the special statistic attack bonus isn't affected by item bonuses. But because we are choosing to use our own attack modifier rather than the special statistic, that +2 applies from hand wraps of mighty blows, and you can get some obscenely high attack bonuses. Even without that, it's still such a freaking cool subclass that I don't see enough people using. Highly recommend it. I'm going to try really hard not to end all of these segments with highly recommend it, but I do highly recommend them. Next up is the hardest one to recommend, and you need a specific type of table to make it work, and that is the Desecrator Champion. The reason this is so hard to recommend is because by the book, you have to be, chaotic evil? Neutral evil. You have to be neutral evil to legally play a Desecrator Champion. But at my table that we're playing through Quest for the Frozen Flame, we have allowed them to be true neutral. They are true neutral. They're still very selfish, which is what the Desecrator's whole gameplay is about, but it hasn't broken the game. It hasn't created this weird dissonance with the story. It works, and I think locking mechanics behind specific alignments, especially evil alignments, is dumb. So if you're okay with bending the rules, let's move on. Otherwise, you can just skip to the next one on the list. I don't know. The Desecrator flips the entire champion on its head. Instead of protecting other people, the Desecrator's best ability is its ability to protect itself. Your reaction no longer reduces damage to allies, but if something hits you, you reduce the damage you take, and you deal bonus damage on your next next attacks against that target. It feels so fun. You just become this like vengeance champion who takes less damage. It's like innate resistance right at the start of the game and bonus damage. It's not a lot, it's like 1 evil damage, but if you're fighting good creatures, that can come in handy. On top of that, you don't have to use Lay on Hands. In fact, you can't. You get Touch of Corruption, which is a fun little damage dealing touch spell, which is a saving throw, not an attack roll, by the way, so you can attack and Touch of Corruption for a nice little multi-attack penalty balancing combo. And if it works, it lowers the enemy's AC for that round, so you can open a turn with Touch of Corruption, lower that armor class, and then beat the hell out of them. It's great. Overall, champion subclasses don't change all that much. It's mostly the reaction and the focus spell, but I highly recommend trying out the Desecrator if you get a nice enough table that lets you. Just play them neutral. I don't think a good character would ever be a Desecrator, but neutral is totally fine, especially with how selfish the Desecrator is. Putting it on a true neutral or chaotic neutral character is a ton of fun, and I don't highly recommend it. I implore you consider it. Next up, I'm cheating because the 4th underrated subclass is not technically a subclass, but I consider it a subclass, and that is the Support Fighter. Bear with me. Fighters don't have subclasses in Pathfinder 2e, at least not traditional subclasses like the rest of them. Instead, they have to pick feats, and your feat selection sort of determines your subclass. Oh, you took all the archery feats? Cool, that's the archery subclass of fighter. You took all the two-handed weapon feats? That's the two-handed weapon subclass of fighter. So by that logic, the Support Fighter is such a surprise, and nobody wants to use it because they just want to be a fighter and hit stuff and get critical hits, and don't worry, I get that. I had the same problem too the 3 times I played fighters. I still didn't play Support Fighter. But the potential of this thing is awesome. Starting right out with combat assessment at level 1, you can attack and make recall knowledge checks for free every single turn. Sure, it has to be on a different target since the same target is immune, but if you're fighting multiple enemies, at the start of each of your turns, you can just attack, recall knowledge every single time, and if you get a critical hit, you get a +2 bonus to recall knowledge. Do you know how good that is? Even if you only have like a 12 or a 14 intelligence, that will put you on par with someone with 18. That's great. At level 2, there's Assisting Shot, which again, on any other class, isn't great. You know, you attack a target, if you hit, the next person to attack it gets +1. Boo. But if you get a critical hit, the next person to attack it gets +2 to their hit. And guess what? You're a fighter. You're gonna crit more often than you miss, so when you critically hit them, not only are you getting to deal your double damage, woo, big boy, strong fighter, but you're giving your ally another chance to crit. If a fighter can give a Barbarian +2 to hit and get the Barbarian to crit, that is so much extra damage. And it's a circumstance bonus, so it stacks with things like Inspire Courage. And then there's so many fighter feats that just inflict conditions and control the battlefield. There's Combat Grab, there's Knockdown, which is absolutely broken in Pathfinder 2e. If you have a fighter with attack of opportunity, knocking someone prone, on top of just giving you and everyone else the ability to attack them as they're flat-footed, also triggers yours and their attacks of opportunity if they would stand back up. Dazing Blow is so broken. Sure, it has the press trait. Sure, it has the incapacitation trait, so it's not that amazing on bosses, but one action to attack a creature you have grabbed, and if they succeed their saving throw, they're stunned 1. Let me repeat that. If they succeed, they're stunned 1. If they fail, stun 2, crit fail, skip their turn. They're stunned 3. They can't do anything else. Dazing Blow is disgusting. Again, if you're level 6 and you're fighting a level 10, maybe it's not useful, but holy cow, with the +2 accuracy on a fighter, that can be so disgusting. Again, almost nobody takes most of these feats because they'd rather just critically hit harder with their fighter, which again, I get it. Critical hits are fun. But next time you play a fighter, take a step back and consider making a support fighter to give both yourself and your allies bonuses to hit, inflict some conditions, throw some intimidation proficiency on there. Oh, you could just lower so many stats of the enemies. It's beautiful. And my final underrated subclass, which actually might be the most underrated subclass in all of Pathfinder 2e, is the Outwit Ranger. Let's face it, nobody's picking Outwit. I know you're gonna leave a comment, but I pick Outwit. That's fine. It's called Exaggerate. It's really a shame, too. Sure, people want to take Flurry so they can attack 8 times per turn. People want to take Precision, so on a critical hit, they get to roll 6 dice at level 1. But Outwit gives so many little bonuses. The downside is that they're almost all roleplay focused, at least the subclass alone. +1 to Recall Knowledge, +1 to Tracking, +1 to Seeking, all super useful. Not necessarily as, or is it +2? God, it's +2! +2 to deception checks, intimidation checks, stealth checks, recalling knowledge. Oh my god, it's so good. You can technically use this in a social situation to lie to somebody. Plus, just a flat +1 armor class against your prey. If you have an 18 dexterity and good armor, that can give you some of the highest starting armor class in the game. Then you start integrating those monster hunter feats. When you hunt your prey, you get to recall knowledge for free, and if you critically succeed that recall knowledge check, you get a +1 to attack rolls, and you can give that to your allies, and there's future feats that give that bonus to armor class and saving throws, and your allies still get all of those bonuses. The biggest weakness of the Monster Hunter Outwit Ranger early on is that critical success requirement. Even a perfectly min-maxed optimized Ranger is gonna need like a 17+ to critically succeed a recall knowledge check against an equal leveled enemy. Now I won't lie, at low levels, Flurry and Precision probably get a lot more tangible results than Outwit. But let me tell you, if you're playing in a campaign that is level 10 or higher, I cannot recommend Outwit Ranger enough, because they get a feat that removes the critical success requirement to give those bonuses to yourself and your allies. Suddenly, upon hitting level 10, for one action, you hunt prey, recall knowledge, succeed, and then you and your entire party get +1 to attack rolls, +1 to armor class, and +1 to saving throws against that target, at least their next attack, which is massive. And sure, it may sound less useful in like multi-target battles, but you can switch targets. You can't do it to the same target more than once, but if you're fighting 3 trolls, turn 1, hunt that troll. Everybody get it. Turn 2, hunt that troll. Everybody get it. Plus, there's another feat, this one's optional, but it's great. You can use nature to identify every single creature. So now you get that +2 bonus from Outwit, and you only have to use your strongest recall knowledge skill. You don't need to worry about occultism or arcana or any of that jazz, just nature. Oh, you're fighting an angelic Aeon? Well, you can still use nature to identify it and give everybody a big ol' +1. I have to this date never seen an Outwit Ranger played, but theory crafting them is so much fun. It's just a shame they're so luck dependent from levels 1 through 9. And those are 5 underrated subclasses in Pathfinder 2e. I'm curious to hear if you agree or disagree. I know there's going to be dozens of you out there saying, excuse me, I've played a support fighter the entire time, so the fact that I play it means it's not underrated. But, to all of you, I hope you have a wonderful day. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons, and as well, while I'm talking about the patrons, I want to make a mention that I believe in the near future I will be opening up YouTube memberships. Let me know in the comments as well if that's something that interests you. I'll probably release some unique content. I'll probably do some members only live streams and stuff like that for a bit more of a personal experience, just to reward people for supporting the channel. So yeah, keep your eyes open for that. I'll probably make an announcement when I do. I want to thank all of you so very much for watching. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, play more underrated subclasses!